A recent voyage to Pagan was federally funded and part of a larger project aimed at fisheries development. In a press conference at their radio station KKMP this morning, husband and wife team Gary Sword and Rosemond Santos presented some details of their latest venture with a new local non-profit organization they formed called Guihan Pasifiku. They're exploring the feasibility of developing open ocean cage aquaculture in the CNMI, and Pagan is one of the locations they're eyeing. Last week they went on a 5-day boat trip to the island.
And part of our trip this past week was to look at the locations of where we're going to put these cages, and of course there's a lot more work to do, but most of all to look at the logistics, how we're going to get the fish out, how we're going to get the feed in, can we grow feed locally?
Yeah, right now we're in the studies and research of tides and where the water goes, and we want to make sure that we don't impact the waters here, especially in our lagoon. We just want to make sure we cross all our T's and dot all our I's.
The trip raised some eyebrows, in part because they were accompanied by the CNMI's chief prosecutor, Shelli Neal, and a former AG investigator, James Isuzu, and used a fishing boat operated by criminal defendant Ambrosio Ogumoro. Ogumoro is the subject of ongoing investigations that Neal is currently overseeing. Santos declined to answer most questions dealing with Neal. What was Shelli Neal's role on this trip?
I would rather not comment on any of those questions. I just want to focus on Guihan Pasifiku and open ocean aquaculture in the CNMI.
But did she have a role to play on the project?
Everybody has a role in the project, I believe. I mean, it's economic development for the CNMI, it's fisheries for the entire world. So everybody has a role.
The trip to Pagan was funded by a $40,000 grant awarded to Guihan Pasifiku as part of a federally funded marine conservation plan administered by the Department of Lands and Natural Resources. Sword says the actual boat trip cost around $3,000 to $4,000. They agreed to pay for the cost of fuel and ice, and in exchange, Ogumoro was able to keep the fish caught along the way. Ogumoro is a recipient of a $60,000 grant from the same funding source. His project involves teaching people how to fish. Neal has declined thus far to disclose how much she paid for this trip, but in an earlier interview this week, Attorney General J.P. Nicholas said she did pay. He estimated about a couple $100s. Asked how Ogumoro's vessel was selected, Sword and Santos say it was the most cost-effective.
Cheapest available means.
The most affordable.
And if you have a helicopter we can use, we'll take it.
Santos and Neal took a helicopter back to Saipan over the weekend. That trip, according to Santos and Sword, was not paid for out of the grant. On your return trip back, was that also funded by the syndicate?
That was a gift.
That was a gift.
God,
yeah.
There are good people in this world.
Okay.
Well, they're doing a job up there, and they didn't have any, and they
were empty coming back, so they offered.
They said, if you guys want to jump on, jump on. So can you have this every day? We'll jump on.
Guihan Pasifiku is actively seeking other sources of federal funding to support the initial stages of their aquaculture venture. They have applied for an $800,000 grant from Health and Human Services, a $645,000 grant from USDA, and a $230,000 grant from Interior.
Meanwhile, Governor Enos met with the Attorney General and says it's the AG's decision to keep Shelli Neal as chief prosecutor.
The AG had basically said that he had talked with Shelli, and he is satisfied that there's no breach, ethical conduct and so forth, and so I told him to wrap that up and finalize it and put that to rest.
Neal recently went on a trip to Pagan on board a boat with criminal defendant Ambrosio Ogumoro, who she's investigating. Ambrosio faces multiple charges related to the police escort he allegedly ordered to assist former AG at Buckingham in avoiding service of a penal summons. Neal also oversees other ongoing investigation that Ogumoro is also the subject of. Enos says he told the AG to remind lawyers how to act within the community.
They're going to have to be very careful in their dealings with out in the community, to be very mindful of the ethical standards and so forth, and you know, even if there wasn't any breach, just the appearance of impropriety or ethical issues is something that I'm really concerned about.
In an earlier interview, Attorney General Joey San Nicolas said he trusts Neal's judgment and stands by her.
She'll still be prosecuting.
That's the AG's decision.
And you're comfortable with that?
I'd like for him to make that decision.